was awesome. Until he got to the part where he's introducing me, and then I was like, enough. So good morning, everybody. Can we put our hands together for the Chamber team who put together this amazing event? They always do such a great job. And of course, to the RBC Convention Center staff, let's show them our appreciation. You know, as we gather here, I want to begin by talking about some of our fellow Manitobans who are going through a really tough time right now in the Swan Valley region. So you've probably seen some pretty stark images of flooding in Minitonas. Unfortunately, overnight last night, the town of Swan River also saw overland flooding. It crept up pretty quickly, counter to what was initially expected. At the provincial level, we had conservation officers who were helping in Minitonas and in the surrounding area. They got a call from the Mounties at around 11 p.m. last night, and they joined the RCMP and local volunteers in the town of Swan River sandbagging until about 4:30 this morning. So if you know a family member or a friend in the Swan Valley, if you know a first responder, if you just feel some compassion as a fellow Manitoban, let's put our hands together and send some moral support to our friends in that part of the province. So there's a lot of issues today, and there will be in the coming days. Unfortunately, there is more rain expected in the forecast, and this is overland flooding again. But we've got STARS, air ambulance on notice, and they're prepared. All sorts of contingency plans have been activated. In addition to fighting the floodwaters, I think one of the things that's really top of mind is just ensuring, because you've probably seen some of these images of roads, you know, missing big chunks, large sections of them washed out. It's just making sure people, particularly in some of the rural areas outside of Swan River and outside of Minitonas, have access to emergency services. Some people have chosen to stay behind and keep an eye on their properties and make sure that they're on site to fight the floodwaters. And I think part of our responsibility, among other things, is to make sure that those folks can get to a hospital if needed. And of course, groceries, clean water, that power is getting hooked up. I know some folks from Hydro are here today. I think I saw Alan across the room. So shout out to the team at Hydro also, who was going around the clock. First of all, dealing with a gas leak in Minitonas yesterday, but also, from what I understand, hooking the power back up today. So let's show them some appreciation as well too. Shout out to the local leadership. You know, in Swan Valley West, Minitonas, but also in Swan River. I was on the phone with the mayor, Lance Jacobson, pretty early this morning, and I don't think he got much sleep, but all the local leaders do such an amazing job as kind of the first line of our emergency response anytime something like this happens. And then just to round out the picture for you folks, we've had our emergency measures team on the ground last few days, and the Office of the Fire Commissioner's CAN-TF4 is also in the region. So if you do have a family member, friend who's wondering about emergency services, depending on where they are in the Swan Valley, the plan is either to have CAN-TF4 do water rescue by boat, or it's to have STARS and potentially Hydro's helicopters assist by air. So we'll keep working together. Hopefully the rain doesn't materialize in the way that some forecasts are predicting, and we'll get through this, as we always do, by working together. Thought that was an amazing presentation about Niverville, the Nighthawks, not just the MJ champions, champions of all of Canada. And because we got Chuck, you know, depending on which room he is, sometimes he's like Snow Lake, sometimes he's Flin Flon, but we know what the region he's very, very proud of. Flin Flon Bombers were also the champions of the SJHL this year. So not only the best team in Manitoba, but Manitoba also had the best team in Saskatchewan. So that's why we're not worried about the Lancaster jersey, right? Because We got a lot of bragging rights this year when it comes to hockey. And I was very honored at the legislature. We hosted the Nighthawks team and their organization. It's a great, great franchise, deep community ties, and a lot of great young people working through their hockey careers there. And we heard some stories. We had some laughs about the tournament. And what I asked the players on the team is, this is it's probably going to be one of the highlights of your hockey playing career, whether you're off to college and some of their players are going to play NCAA next year, whether maybe, you're going junior B or even beer league, who knows what the next step is. I said, please just pay it forward. Please just give back. This game of puck gives so much to so many of our families. You guys have been given such an amazing opportunity. Next time you're at the ODR, next time you're at the rink, help tie up the skates for some little kid. Volunteer to coach a local community team, even if it's as simple of getting some pointers to that kid who's practicing out there. Please just share the opportunity with the next generation that's coming up behind you.
No doubt.
And to me, that's the theme that I wanted to really touch on. So I'm really happy that you came up here and bragged about your local hockey club, because it kind of cues it up. We have a problem in the West with, and I don't mean Western Canada, I mean Western society. We have a problem with youth unemployment. Is this on your radar? Okay, we are not paying enough attention to youth unemployment in our society today. You look at every single jobs report that comes out, and you know what? We look at it very closely. The economy, it's a top priority right there with healthcare. Manitoba has the lowest unemployment rate in all of Canada, which is a good thing. But our youth unemployment rate is double what the overall unemployment rate is. And that is not a Manitoba phenomenon. Go to the fast-growing provinces, go to the fast-growing states in the U.S. Youth unemployment is dramatically higher than it is in the broader society, right? At the same time, social media, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts are giving a lot of young people the opportunity to spend time in maybe the not super constructive from a society's point of view ways. I'm talking about things that we would consider pretty radical in terms of political views. I'm talking about gambling, not just on sports, but on the, poly markets and things like that.
I think he's pointing at the
and
wrong
of course,
direction there. I certainly do.
probably some darker stuff that's not great for polite conversation at the breakfast table. And all of these things are interrelated. And so I think we as a society here in Manitoba, for sure, that's the point of me being here, but us across the Western world, we have a question to answer, which is, how are we going to create economic opportunity for youth in our society?
I just dare anybody.
And the mayor said it very, very well. You don't have to get as kind of stark and concerned about the future as the points that I just laid out there.
That is not the answer.
Just ask yourself if your children and grandchildren are going to be better off than you are today.
He was wrong doing that.
Now, that answer is much more difficult in places like Toronto and the Lower Mainland, where even for wealthy professionals, the idea of owning your own home is out of reach, right? Like, my wife is a physician. Of her med school classmates who moved out to BC, physicians, wealthy people relative to the rest of us in society, they are like, we will never own our own home, right? That's what it's like in the Lower Mainland. So we still got a chance here in terms of affordability in Manitoba. But the question is, are we going to have the jobs? Are we going to have the economic activity? Are we going to have the trades, work experience, on the job training for young people in our society so that they can get a foothold in the labor market? There's also a risk, right? Like, if we don't do this well, things can go sideways real quick. And I'm not going to give voice to some of the nastier ideas that are out there percolating on social media, but just look in the comment section on posts about the labor force in our country and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Labor force is
And the
because
solution is
everybody's aging out.
young people. Employers are all, and I'm sure Chuck's going to ask me about the labor market.
If there was
Right.
multi-million youths to replace everybody
employers,
retiring, there would be no problem.
government,
but there is just
people
not.
in civil society, we
They are
have a
not
youth unemployment that is
replacing
2x
the
what the
boomers
unemployment
and the
rate
Joneses
is
and
in the
all
rest of
those guys as
society.
fast as they're aging out.
Some part of the solution for the labor force needs in our society has to come from hiring our own kids. So what do we do about it? Well, today we're launching two new initiatives. The first that I'm very excited to tell you about is called Next MB Jobs for Youth. This is a $3.5 million program that is going to provide wage subsidies to business to give young people a start.
Where I live,
to
they
take
had
a
a program
chance on
called
young people.
CETA, and in
Now, there's
CETA,
a
picking it gave you
acronym,
your,
an initialism, if we want to
credits
get
for
technical, called
graduation,
NEET,
and it puts
N-E-E-T.
you into a training
When we're talking about
program
youth
where you actually
unemployment,
get
not
paid
in
to start your own
education,
business and
employment,
intern
or
and stuff
training.
like that.
And so these are folks who maybe are doing too much of the infinite
starting your own
scroll,
business, and
but
they paid you
it's
the
because they
credits
haven't
to get
had
through high
the
school, 'cause they
opportunity
had
to
send
find
you
their
somewhere
footing.
else
This is
for the
exactly the
training.
cohort that we're going to target with this program.
That's how you
Young
get youth
Manitobans who
involved
are not in an educational program, not in
in
an
employment.
employment, and not in a training program will be able to enter this Next MB Jobs for Youth initiative. It's going to start with a cohort of 300 young Manitobans. And from there, the wage subsidies will pave the way for them to be able to walk into paid internships, to go to co-op placements, and to advance work
Co-op is the way
integrated
to go.
learning. So you can look at it the way that I did, which is we got to do something
create your own
about the
business.
percolating anger that
Doing the
the
work.
media is not reporting on in our
Give them the
society
credit as they
when
go
it comes
for
to youth
graduating
unemployment.
high school.
You could take the more optimistic approach of Mayor Dick, which is what do we want for the future of our society and what do we want to hand our young people? But either way, I think it's time for us to work together. And so we're putting a marker down here on this initiative. I hope we can do a lot more work with the
But it
Manitoba
ain't got nothing
Chambers.
to do with
I hope we're going to do a lot
blocking and
more
gating the
work
internet,
with the Business
period.
Council of Manitoba and with specific
That's the way you
employers.
create, like,
I know we're going to do a ton of work
thing
with the
where we got helicopter
post-secondaries,
parenting
but
now.
this
That's how you
is
create
a
kids that
really
just have no clue
urgent
how to take care
societal
of
issue that
themselves.
we have done a disservice to ourselves and to the next generation by not paying enough attention to. The second initiative that we're announcing here today is a new program called Dream Builders. This is $800,000
You don't learn problem
towards the
solving by
Boys
not
and Girls
facing
Club of
problems.
Thompson. So again, we're getting outside of southern Manitoba. And then back down south, Sarah Riel initiative. And the idea again is paid work experience with a specific focus on carpentry and construction training. We want to build Churchill. We want to build the North. We're putting the finishing touches on a beautiful pool in Thompson,
hard as it
Manitoba.
is to say,
We want young people to be
construction is not
working
the only
on
trade
sites
out
like
there.
that. So yeah, whether it's
Not
swinging
the
a
only
hammer
necessary one.
or whether it's, learning a
Plumbers,
trade, earning a red
electricians,
seal,
engineers.
hopefully this will be the
Yes,
first
you
step
need mutters
towards
and
many,
guys
many
with
young
sheetrock
people
and
finding a future.
You need people who put the buildings
So
up.
how do we do
but
this? Well,
most of
I
all,
think what we're saying
you
is
need
we do have to
this
take a chance
day and
on
age,
young
you need
people and give them
engineering
that
experience,
ability
that
to
electronic
get a
background.
toehold, to find purchase, to
Every
get
trade
that start
you
in a
trade
career.
for
And I think
should
part of the
train
role
you
the
for
government can
another
play
trade,
is
and
maybe we can take some of the
use
risk
as
or
part of another
uncertainty or
trade
just
for
help
when
to
you run into that
incentivize
dead end.
by putting some money on
Down
the
the
table
road.
to subsidize
You
the
don't
wages
leave them out in the
for young
middle of
people in
nowhere.
these spaces. But I wanted to talk a bit about a couple of really amazing young people that we're taking a chance on, just as an indication of where we go with this. So when we go back a few years in Manitoba, there was a very divisive political issue about searching the landfill, right?
When I went
And
to
it became
radio,
very, very
TV,
politicized.
tech
Not something we
school,
ever wanted to
I learned
politicize, but I think
writing,
everybody in the room knows
marketing,
what I'm talking about.
electronics,
And our team made the
broadcasting,
choice to do the right thing,
interviewing,
to respect the dignity of women,
thousands of
respect the
things. And
dignity
I
of
was
all
able to take
Manitobans,
that
and to
when
say that we're going to search the
broadcasting
landfill.
came to a dead end for
And the
me,
reason I think we were brought
because
to
I
that
picked
point
a bad time
is because
Top
there
40 radio
were
was
a couple
fading,
of
and that's what I was
very,
training
very
for.
powerful
I was
voices
able
of
to
young
parlay
people.
my
And if you look at it from a political
electronic
perspective, when we
skills
started talking about the
after a
search the
few
landfill
years
thing,
working
as
at a
you know, our
manufacturing
opposition decided
facility
to make it the issue
into
that they wanted to
actual
run on,
promotion to an
we were on the wrong
engineering
side of
type
the issue.
job where I designed
And
and
this is not a judgment
imagined
on anyone here in the room
prototypes
or
and
anyone, you know,
programmed. I
everyone
was
should be able to
working
change
with
their mind over time.
robotics and
But when we started
early
talking about the
AI,
issue, it was about
before it was
60-40
even called
against,
AI.
right?
I was able to
By
do
the time
that
election
because
day
of the
rolled
technical
around,
training
it
that
had
I
flipped,
took.
and it was more of a draw. After the election, it became 60-40 in favor. Just so you understand that Manitobans evolved their thinking on this issue.
Now they've gutted that
What
broadcasting stuff. You don't need the
led to that
license,
change
therefore
of
you
heart?
don't need the electronic training. You're
As it was two people
stop
in
in at the
particular,
radio station
Cambria
and say, "Hi, I
Harris
want to
and
talk
Jordan
on the air."
Meyer. Now, you may not know who they
Basically,
are,
what you have to know
but
is how to run a
Cambria
computer. Because
is
you
the
push a
daughter
button,
of one of the women who
and
we recovered from
your
the
whole
landfill
music
at Prairie
list comes
Green,
up for you. It
and the
plays all
other
night long for you.
is the sister
You don't need
of the
to know
other
how to
woman
repair
whose remains
a
we recovered
transmitter
from the
because
Prairie Green
somebody else
landfill.
does that.
And Cambria
done by
made a
most of it's
remarkable
done
impression on me the
automatically.
first time I heard her speak.
So you didn't learn that
It was
electronic
actually, I
stuff.
believe, November 2022, and you heard the comment at
You
the
didn't learn
time,
marketing. Used to be
made
the
that the
DJ had
search
to make
was
all
not
the ads
feasible.
for the next
And she immediately
day
clapped
for
back
another
and said,
person,
"Are our
or
lives
for his
not
own
feasible?"
show even.
And I thought, like, holy cow, this kid has
Sometimes
game.
you had to write
Right? And from
ad,
there,
you had
the
to
issue
record it,
became,
you had to
you know,
figure out the
a
music
bit
that
of
goes
a
behind
hot
it.
topic and a live wire in a way that you're all familiar to. And Cambria and Jordan were there each
Yeah,
step of the
I
way.
learned marketing and writing.
And so there
and
we were, the
news
summer leading up
reporting
to the provincial election in
just have to learn button
2023.
pushing.
And Cambria
Which is
and
okay,
Jordan
but
are there on the side of a
one
road
day when
near the
you-
dump on the south
that
side
young
of town,
person who's now
asking
walked to
for
that radio
dignity
station or
and respect to be
television
shown to their
station
mom and to their sister
runs into the
respectively.
fact that he's got a
And
family
I was
of 5
talking
or 6 and the
to
paycheck just
a
don't
good
match
friend of mine
the
who also happens to be the premier of
plans.
British
You're
Columbia,
gonna have to move
David
on.
Eby,
You gotta
and he
have
was saying,
something else you
"This
can roll that
is
education
terrible."
into.
He said,
It's
"Do you
like
know what
going
the
and
rest
telling
of
your mother and
Canada
father, I want to
thinks
be
when they look at this?"
part of a band.
And you have
You
these
better have a
young women
secondary
asking
plan.
for something very, very basic, and they have to stand in the ditch beside a
You
road
gotta
to
learn
get
your
their
sound
voices heard.
equipment, your soundboards, and all
So I
that
really,
stuff.
really
You might be
appreciate
able to
Dave's
parlay it
candor
into
in
another type
kind
of
of framing it up that way. Because when
career
you're in
in
the
the
midst of it,
music
right, it's
industry.
like, you know, media sticks a mic in your face, and you hear from people
But
on
if you
doorstep.
don't learn the extra
Sometimes you don't
stuff,
always see the forest for the trees
when
cut, as they.
music
But getting that
stops
outside
working for
perspective in
you,
this
you have no
instance,
place
it
to
helped.
turn. You're just left
And
there
so
standing on your own
Cambria,
to start
Jordan, they
over
did an
from
amazing
scratch.
job. And
Probably
what I
past
concluded through that
midlife,
process
which is
basically was
not
this.
like people think.
If
It's not-
Jordan or
you're
Cambria
not
had been
50 years
born
old
in
when
the
you're
area where
midlife,
I'm
you're
raising my
15 years to
kids,
retire.
so a
You're
kilometer southwest
36,
of where we are here
37 years
today,
old at
they would be
midlife,
in law
and
school.
You're not close to retiring.
Such is the sharpness of their mind.
Especially when
Such is their
retirement's
ability to
70 years
turn
old
their
today.
thoughts into words and to use their words to mobilize people to take action in our society. But for whatever reason, and again, this is not about blame or, shame or anything like that, but for whatever reason, they grew up very, very socioeconomically far from where I'm raising my kids. And as a result, instead of them being at Robson Hall, there they were, standing in the ditch. And yet, in spite of the fact that they had those barriers put in front of them, they
Some of
changed
the
our
stuff they
society
wanna
for
do
the better.
today, like dating the internet.
They didn't
until
ask
you're
for it to
16
happen
years
that
old
way,
and
but
having kids
in their
helicopter
persistent
parents,
and
the last 2
unrelenting
kids don't work
call
until
for
you're 8 or
basic
9 years
respect
old,
and dignity, what
learn
happened?
how to cook or do something
You
for
had,
food while you're home for the only hour
in the
or
last
so that
election,
they allow
a
you.
glass of clear water put
This
before
stuff is
you
not
and a
preparing
glass
kids
of dirty
for
water put
what he's
before you.
talking about.
And full credit to you as the
At
people of
all.
Manitoba,
It's not the way
you
to do
chose
it.
the
You
clear
have to learn
glass of
problem
water.
solving by dealing with problems, not by being sheltered
And
from
it was
them.
2 young women who helped you to see the clearness. 2 young women who didn't have the benefit
We're not going to have time to
of
continue this.
strong economic
I'm
base
gonna
at the
have
start
to
of
let it
life,
go in
didn't have the
about
benefit
3
of
or
all the
4
education
minutes.
that myself and others take for granted,
And I
didn't
hope
have the
you'll,
benefit of networks and connections like
like,
many
follow,
of
and
us in the
subscribe
society
for more. We will be
are
back. I know
raised
the
around.
5 is a little bit different than
Anyway,
what we
where am I
used to
going with this?
provide on the other channel, but
Cambria and Jordan now work for us at the provincial
This is-
government.
something,
They earn their keep each
solving
and every day,
discussion
working on
that's
important policy
necessary.
priorities, including some ones that you've probably seen in the media
Love
recently,
Wab
and they're
Kinew.
thinking,
Yeah, he's
all
great.
right,
He's got
that's
a
pretty
nice
good.
sense of humor,
Manitoba's
good
on the right track here.
personality, but some of the things
So-
he's doing, not quite there.
They earn their keep. It's no charity case, nothing like that. They're as qualified a political staff as anyone else that works with us in the organization. However, part of why we brought them on and gave them the opportunity is to rectify that equation, where had they been born in a different life circumstance, they would have been born, or they would be in law school today. And so what we're saying is part of the role the government can have is to find talent in the society, regardless of where it is, and make sure that there's a platform to elevate it and to help us all be better off as a result of it. And so we have found ways to do that in the public sphere. I think part of the challenge for the private sector is to figure out how can we do more of this in the rest of the society. And we're ready to play ball as the provincial government. We're here to announce a few $1 million worth of initiatives today, but I want to hear more. I want to hear the other ideas of how we can do more of this in the future. But the basic challenge, I'll go so far as to say this is a challenge, is simple. Everyone is asking us how we're going to grow the economy. Everyone asks us, how are we going to become a have province? Everyone asks us, what are you going to do about labor force needs in the society? Why don't we start by hiring our own? Merci beaucoup. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Some of them aren't qualified. Some of them, you try to hire them, you bring them into an employment agency, they can't even pass a dexterity test to do some of the jobs that are out there necessary. All right, so we are going to call this. We're going to end this right here.
Thanks for coming.
And I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it and you see some value in some of the things that I'm saying. We'll be back. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.